You're muted.
Hello, Adriana.
Hello, hello.
Well, hello and welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure for Asocopy to have you all here. We can see that some of you already started saying hello in our chat box, so that is great. So if you want, you can start writing where are you joining us today from while we introduce our presenter today. So today's webinar, it's titled Critical Media Literacy in ELT, Educating Critical Consumers of Media in the English Classroom. So thank you very much for taking time out and being here today. The topic that we will be discussing today or listening to our speaker today is critical literacy, a topic that is getting a lot of attention from English teachers and researchers everywhere. So we will be listening to Camilo Dominguez, who holds a master's degree in foreign language teaching and learning from Universidad de Antioquia here in Colombia, where he has worked as a teacher, educator, and researcher. He is a member of GIAE research group, and his research interests are in the areas of critical media literacy, of course, and critical academic literacy in ELT. Currently, Camilo is coordinating the ESL program at a K-12 school in the US. So remember that we will be running a session, a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So you can use the chat box to write your comments or your questions, or if you prefer, you can use your microphone to talk to our speaker at the end of the session. So welcome again. And Camilo, the floor is yours. So I guess you are ready and we can start listening and checking your presentation. So I hope you all enjoy and of course learn from this session. Welcome, Camilo.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Eliana, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here, joining this session. I'm very excited and honored to be here, just sharing with teachers from Colombia, and that is a very important task for me to engage in these kind of academic communities in our country. Today, we're going to be speaking about critical media literacy in ELT, and I want to say that your participation is going to be very important for this session. And I was given freedom to prepare this in the best way that I thought would be for this. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen right now. And I'm going to show you a very short commercial. I'm going to show you a video. And I would like you to think about how you would use this video in your class. What would you do with it? Whether or not you have experience with critical media literacy. So I would like you to share your ideas in the chat box, and 2 or 3 people that would like to share or open the microphone and maybe activate the camera. That's also possible if you want. So I'm gonna just share the video here, very short commercial. Let me just make sure that I share my audio also. Here we go. if you were to use this video in your English class, how would you use it? Any ideas? Anyone who wants to open the mic and share, or here in the chat box? Let's see if there are some ideas coming. No ideas in the chat box and no mic. Okay, there's some here. I see. I would use it to talk about conditionals, for example. Thank you, Adriana. At the beginning of the class as a warm-up for brainstorming, Gonzalo says. A discussion, why would company like Coca-Cola want to create a commercial of this kind? Frank Giraldo, thank you very much. So we are here to think about this question. Why why caring about media in our English classroom? And this is something that it goes beyond the English classroom. There's issues related to media that affect us all in many different ways. And this is what we're going to try to address in this session. Why to care about mass media in our English class? And, and that's the reason why this is the title of our session, Educating Critically Aware Consumers of Media in the English Classroom. So that was a brief introduction. We're going to share a brief theoretical framework for critical media literacy. And then we're going to do some exercises together and then have a dialogue and see how this could be or not be used in your settings and what possibilities or challenges you see and any ideas that we want to share. So here we go. Just this starts by stating that we are not always aware of the power that media has to impact our lives, who we are, how we think, who we act, and how we feel. And there are many scholars from different fields, not necessarily from an ELT field, discussing this. How is media affecting us and how we can educate critical consumers of media? Since we live in a in a over digital world and we are bombarded by media in many different ways. So, and I'm posing this question: how could our community, ELT community in Colombia, contribute to the education of these critical consumers or producers of media? Um, what is critical media literacy? And we're going to define it here. I'm going to present a few like a few slides so that you have an idea of what, theoretically speaking, critical media literacy is. It is a text analytical approach that aims to expand the traditional view of literacy. That means reading or writing by including different forms of mass communication, popular culture, and new technologies. There are many people, as Eliana said at the beginning, that are paying attention to multiliteracy, critical literacy, and that is a way to expand what traditionally is about what to expand what literacy is traditionally, and it's limited to the skills of reading and the skills of writing, decoding, and that's pretty much connected to what we had last session with Claudia, and she addressed the brain part, the part of the brain in the process of learning a language. This goes beyond the skills, and now incorporating other kinds of texts, not just written text, but also multimodal texts that incorporate video, sound, images, and that's one part. It also has the potential to engage students in the critical analysis of the relationships between media, the audiences, information, and power. And a good example for this would be the news, for example. Who are the audiences for the pieces of news that we read every day on media, on the social media, or on the newspapers? What kind of information is being shared? Who is being represented? What voices are being represented or not? And what are the power relations that are involved in this transaction or in this relationship between the authors and the readers or the consumers, as we're speaking about media? And also, critical media literacy has the potential to support students in the production of alternative texts that challenge these media messages and media narratives, and expanded by providing other perspectives different than that of the authors. There's frameworks for critical media literacy. There are organizations in the United States mostly that have worked a lot in expanding this media education and or incorporate media literacy in education. And one of those frameworks is proposed by Joel's, and it involves like the empowerment spiral that bring this is very connected to critical awareness proposed by Freire also. And this involves a process of awareness, raising awareness first, then engaging into a critical deconstruction of analysis, and then engaging in reflection and action. um, this we're going to watch a very short video with a definition of critical media literacy. Let me see if I can play it.
Well, there's a formal definition for media literacy, which is that media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media in all of its forms, whether it's the print or whether it's the video or the internet. And I think we could extend the definition of media literacy to also say that media literacy really helps us understand the role and our relationship to media in society. And that's a really important skill for citizenship and for being a wise consumer, as well as a responsible producer. So the first question is, who sent this message? Knowing who the author is, knowing what's behind making a message, and the fact that messages are made by someone who makes choices about the message. And then the second question is, what techniques are used to attract my attention? And knowing about the arts and how the arts contribute to attractiveness of media, and that's why we're so interested. And media certainly is a beautiful thing, as well as sometimes perhaps a dangerous thing. So again, we have to really learn to understand those techniques and the power that they have over us. The third question is, how might other people understand this message differently from me? Because we know that different people will always understand a movie differently, for example. And at the same time, audiences are also targeted by advertisers because advertisers know that different people understand messages differently. The fourth question is, what values, lifestyles, and points of view are represented in or omitted from this message? And there we're really looking at the value system that a media producer is projecting out to us. And again, we have to make our decisions about what we want to accept or what we don't want to accept. And also we have to recognize that many points of view are left out. And so there really isn't any media message that is ever objective. There always is a point of view, even though the author and the producer may try to represent different viewpoints. There will always be someone left out. And then the fifth question is, why was this message sent? And we have what's called a core concept behind that question that says all media messages are organized to gain profit and or power. And we use power in its broadest sense of influence over someone's thinking. And again, there's nothing wrong with profit. There's nothing wrong with power. It depends on our own understanding of it and how it's used.
And they propose a framework for analysis and production of media from a critical media literacy perspective. Understanding that texts are never neutral, and then they propose an analysis of authorship, format, audience, content, and purpose. When it comes to authorship, it is about who created it, and very connected to the purpose. Why was this message created? Pretty much what Juan Carlos is saying in the chat box. It's Coca-Cola. So what is the purpose of them connecting their product to the value of kindness, for example? What is the purpose behind it? How do they present the content? What values are being represented? And the lifestyles, the point of views, who is not being represented in that text? The techniques, like what Carlo just said, they are appealing to emotion to sell the product. They always transfer the qualities of people, and they transfer qualities of something else to their product. So when they say open happiness, for example, they're transferring that feeling of happiness to a Coca-Cola or a product. And this is about commercials, but there's also other kinds of media texts, newspaper articles or news articles. There's also um, the movies, the short films, anything that is mass media. Um, and and I brought some exercises, some examples of tomorrow commercials for us to kind of engage in a possible conversation and discussion and analysis of this. Just understanding that we are analyzing the authorship, some of the aspects of these five core concepts: authorship, format, audience, content, purpose. I brought a few questions also. So we're gonna watch this commercial, and then I will be sharing the questions that might guide our conversation, and we can also add more. You can add some more over there in the chat box, or if you want to open your mic also. Let's just play the video first.
Bizi bilirsiniz. Güzeliz biz. Ellerimiz de böyle ince ve narindir. Ha, bu arada söylemiş miydim? Altını çok severiz. Yakışır da. Bir kenarda sessiz sakin kendi halimizde otururuz. Öyle herkesin içinde kahkaha falan da atmayız. Lütfen, yapar mıyız hiç? Siz bizi bilirsiniz, değil mi?
As you may see, there are a lot of resources being used in this commercial, but let's jump into the questions. I have some of these. I have some questions here. Who is this commercial targeting? Who is it not intended for? What messages are being delivered by this text? What techniques were used to convey the message? Who is represented and who is not? What is the purpose of this text? So let me find the chat box and see what ideas you have over there. And I'm also going to share the link. Adriana says, change our idea about Coca-Cola as a representation of capitalism in a society highly separated by castes and gender, empowering women, empowerment, going against gender stereotypes, aggressive women, aggressiveness, and fitness. Well, what are the messages being delivered by this text? Who is this not targeting, for example? Not targeting men. Misogynists are being targeted. Men. Trans are not. Women can be successful sportsmen. What techniques did you see them using? What resources did they use to convey those messages? What did you see that advertisers used? They changing scenes. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Contrasting the old message about women and the changing paradigm. Comparisons. Did you see anyone that is well known in the video, or did you hear anything that is familiar to people? Women can do much more than what traditional has been said. Beyonce, who runs the world, a famous song. They use trendy lifestyles. Usually they are always selling some kind of lifestyles. I'm going to go to this video. This is by Coca-Cola again. I'm not advertising Coca-Cola. It's just that I find these commercials very interesting to analyze. I have the same questions here. And this is from a campaign that it's called Diverse Families.
Mummy,
Yeah,
do you know what they told me at school today?
what was that?
That you're too old to be a mummy.
Who told you that?
Thank you. Daddy, someone at school told me you're not my real parents.
Who told you that?
You that?
Lewis, the boy with the messy hair. Today at school, someone told me my mummy is my daddy and my daddy is my mummy.
Who told you that?
Alex, the boy with the red hair. Dad, at school they asked me why I don't have a mum, but I have two dads.
Well, let me ask you another question.
If you could choose your family,
Would you pick us?
Yes! Oh yes! Yes! Yes!
Grammarly can help you write quickly.
So let me try to find the chat box here to look at your ideas. So I see interesting comments here where they need to open up their target. It intends to be inclusive. It is for everybody. They need to look inclusive. Choose happiness and Coca-Cola. Straight to the subconsciousness. They are always creating lifestyles and telling you how you are supposed to be if you buy their product. So yeah, the main purpose is to sell a product by its target to specific people, and it tries to identify with them, in this case with women. I guess that was about the previous commercial. Now Coca-Cola tried to sell its products to diverse family members who will buy to feel included in society. And they find many ways. They put the number, their names in the bottles. In this commercial, happiness is equated with Euro-American views of family and community. And so on and so forth. We could go deep and try to share our perspectives here and analysis. So basically, what this is trying to do with critical media literacy is to expand our understanding of media just as a text that is neutral. So it is never neutral, and there's always a team and there's always issues of authorship behind each text, regardless of the text it is. So there is someone behind it or a team with a specific purpose, and they use specific techniques to attract their audiences. They target some people specifically, some others are not. They represent some people, include some voices, other not. And that is what makes of this framework for analysis or this tool a critical tool for education. There's in the spiral that I presented before. So they start by raising awareness, then going to the analysis, which is what we briefly did, and then they present two more stages: reflection and action. Um, in the action part, I call it reflection for action. I try to just blend those two. There's possibilities to create counter narratives with students, and this is how critical media literacy also promotes the creation of counter text or of media text from different perspectives. So this is an example of how a counter text could be done. There should be a whole process in the class about this, and this is the final reflection presented by one person. There's this one here, and there's also this one. This is another example. You see how they are showing the evolution of obesity and not of flavor. Oh my God. Let me just go back to the slides.
Yes, Camilo, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if you are presenting something right now.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
okay.
So
Yeah, it's okay, don't
what
worry.
should I do? I have the control of the meeting. I'm sorry. How can I avoid it? Or how can I acerca disable video receiving? No.
No, I guess it's okay now.
Oh, it's okay? Okay. You're doing it yourself. Oh, it says cancelar. I'm gonna cancel the sharing.
Can you see it now?
Yes, Andres.
So these are examples of counter narratives. They went from I'm loving it to I'm hating it. And there's always a whole process, as I said before, for a student to get to this point of analysis and share this reflection or this or take this stance about this logo. And this is the example for a drink, a soft drink, soda called Dr. Pepper. So you see the original ad shows the evolution of flavor, pre-pepper, pepper discovery, and post-pepper. And this is a counter text presenting the evolution of obesity. And there's, of course, a stance here being critical about the consumption of sugar, probably, and all the chemicals included in a soda. Pre-pepper, pepper discovery, and post-pepper. And I was trying to be very brief with the framework so that we had time to think about how we could use this in our ELT classes. What potential do we see in using critical media literacy in the English classrooms? What opportunities or challenges do you foresee if you were to use this? And also, if you have used critical media literacy or any other critical approaches that is related to this, what have been those opportunities or challenges that you may have faced? that is a question that I want to pose for us to have a conversation. And I would love for you to raise your hands and open your mics if you would like to participate.
I think that many of us feel that sometimes there are some topics we're not allowed to talk to our students in our classes because it could be taken like we're teaching them what to think. And I keep telling my teacher students that it is about teaching them how to think. I think that having in our classes that safe space for our students to work with critical media literacies needs to be that a safe space. It's necessary. It's important. It's part of our mission as teachers. Have our students think critically.
Thank you, Adriana. I would tell you that there is a very fine line between raising awareness or expanding awareness and indoctrinating. And from my experience, I have been doing this kind of work from many years ago. And in my first experiences, I remember, and it was not with kids, it was with adults, and we were analyzing um, advertisements of pretty much billboards the were displayed in the public spaces in Medellin. Most of them were advertising jeans and using women as one of their techniques, probably, or representing women over there. So um, obviously, I was trying to show back then the all the problematics that we could see, all the issues that we could see there, issues of representation, messages that were being not so explicit, but were there in those advertisements about women in Colombia, and how those representations could also be connected to how we see women in Colombia, how women see themselves also, and how they're looking to have certain lifestyles, look in certain ways. And that was clear for me back then. Um, and one student said, I don't see a problem there. What's the problem? I see it, but I don't see a problem. And the whole classroom, after like all the process that we had done, went back to him, and how is it possible that you don't see everything that we have been discussing and all and this and that? So yes, I there's political components in some perspectives of being critical, but there's a very fine line that we as educators should be very careful. And I think our role as educators, if we were to use these critical approaches, is to become listeners and not to try to share and like convince anyone of anything, and just try to expand perspectives, share perspectives, and also promote that secure or safe environment of listening to each other and understanding that there will always be as many perspectives as people in the room. So thank you so much, Adriana, for sharing. Is there anyone else? We see, I agree. It's also because we haven't been educated to have this discussion. It's part of our PD to have an educated way to approach these topics. Carlos Granados.
Well, I see many opportunities. For example, now with the current climate, I think it is necessary for people to be careful about what they consume and really try to see all the messages like with a critical perspective and within a context, because sometimes they can be like influenced by the media. That's what's happening. And the other thing, or the challenge, I guess it has to do with what Adriana was mentioning, I guess, that is the fact that sometimes, like the example you gave that with the student that says that I don't see any problem, sometimes it's because they don't have like the background, or they are so used to being like exposed to media that they get used to the messages and they don't see anything there. So it's like sometimes it's our work like to providing like sort of a historical context and all the messages that are around and why the messages are problematic, because at first time they don't see it. They don't see any problematic message. So I think that's a challenge.
Thank you, Carlo. I have another example, and this is with students in fourth grade here in the United States. So we did all this work. We learned about advertising. We learned about what an advertisement was, about the purpose behind them, which is to make money. And we learned about, we analyzed soft drink commercials that they chose. We learned about sugar. We learned about many things. We analyzed counter videos and so on and so forth. And even after that, there was one kid that said, "Mr. Cruz," that's how they call me. "Yes, I understand, but I like Coca-Cola. That's my favorite drink, and I'm not going to stop drinking it." So that's when they are making an informed decision. So our role would be to expand their perspectives and yet respect whatever position they want to take, because that is actually the democratical perspective in everything that is critical. I know, and I do it even myself as an artist. I am a singing artist, and I remember, and there's a lot of critical work about reggaeton, and sometimes when I was on stage I had to sing reggaeton. So am I contradicting myself being critical and singing this? But that's the same thing that I would I went to a conference, a critical media literacy conference, and they were speaking about Amazon and how Amazon was the purest representation of the neoliberal world and that we live in, and how they manipulate everything. And the presenter said, and to prepare this presentation, I could only find the book I needed in Amazon, so I had to buy it in Amazon. So we live in contradiction, and the point of this for me is not just to be critical and criticize everything and become like a very purist analyst of media or any texts. So it's just to understand that um, we will have our own perspective and that there will be many perspectives, and that is actually, I think it's more challenging to get to that point of respecting our positions than to get students to analyze the texts in a critical way. Thank you so very much, Carlo, for sharing. Anyone else? Let me read something for if there's anything from the chat. Marta, she says, "I think the key is supporting students in questioning every text they consume. Then they can make their own opinions and decisions." Let me see if there's more in the chat box. "It is who we are. We are people with opinions, history, and background. Our reality needs to permeate our teaching contexts." Daniela, she says, "Do you want to share your comment, opening your microphone?" She says, "I've done it all. All I can say is that gains outweighed any possible challenges that may rise. Sorry. When you bring this kind of input, there will be opinions for sure. It is highly thought-provoking, and the path class discussions take depends highly on us." There's people who feel identified or connect to these kind of critical work, and there's people who will not. And the idea is actually not to try to get everyone to do this and to convince everyone that this is what we need. I think that's my personal opinion. My responsibility is to share. That is the reason why I'm here. I'm not trying to convince anyone that this is the best way to go. I'm just sharing from my experience. Also, Gonzalo, you wanna go ahead and open your mic?
Okay, thank you. I don't know. I just want to congratulate you because I think that it was a good experience by hearing you, your experience about critical literacy. I think this is a very important topic nowadays because of our situation in Colombia. I live in Tuluá. I work for Unidad Central del Valle del Cauca, and you know that the situation is very chaotic. I think that's a word. And so I think that critical literacy, critical thinking is necessary for changing this kind of perceptions these people have, that as you said, we don't respect the other's perspectives, the other points of view. So we want them to believe what we believe. So I think that these studies are very important in education today. I'm just starting my doctorate project, and it's I want to know more about critical thinking and critical reading. So when I saw the post about your conference, immediately I wanted to be here, and this is a big opportunity for all these people who's connected right now to contribute to solve these problems, to transform our society with or through these kind of projects or implementations. So I want to just to give my mail, and I'm gonna email you for contact about this kind of projects. And I think that this could be a good opportunity to get more experiences. I want to work with bachelor degree programs that we have at university. So if people here want to have like a network about critical literacy, we can do something better and bigger. Thank you. That's for.
Thank you, Gonzalo. There is a growing academic community on critical media literacy. And critical work is not just critical media literacy. There's many different opportunities to explore in our classrooms. And I remember I also had the opportunity to be a practicum and thesis advisor in the undergraduate program at Universidad de Antioquia. And many years ago, when we started this work with critical media literacy there was a group of students that were working in public schools with all the limitations in resources, and they brought ideas of critical media literacy into their class. So they were analyzing representations of women in media, in newspaper, and if I do not recall wrong, they analyze music videos, representations of women. They also analyze bodily representation. So there's many things that are relevant for our young learners that could also be promoted in our English classes beyond learning the languages in a structural way. But again, that's a decision also for teachers to make. There's Magda says, I think that this is a great opportunity that we have to discuss in our classroom, because students are active consumers and they don't pay attention to the messages behind the mass media. They just consume the products because they are in, and there are many stereotypes that some companies promote. So we need to promote critical thinking with students in order so their critical awareness. And not just consumers, we are also media producers now. With social media, everyone is sharing, everyone is putting messages out with memes or with their posts on Instagram, and everyone is representing some lifestyles and representing some values and so on and so forth. So how would this expand our experience of consuming media and producing media? And how could our responsibility as citizens expand when we are exposed to this kind of perspectives? Again, this is not to convince that this is the way to go. This is just another perspective. One of the questions after many years of working with critical literacy and critical media literacy, in my experience here in the United States, working with elementary school kids, I'm going to share my screen again, is this. There's a question for me. Is there a place for love and compassion in critical media literacy? When I was working with elementary kids and all these examples that I mentioned about the project with soft drinks, there was a point that I asked myself, what is my role here? Am I going to push harder so that they see what I want them to see, or should I stop and understand that this is where they are at? This is how they see the world. They are seeing the beauty of the world in that commercial. They're seeing the message of kindness. They're taking it for themselves, and and in their reflections, they were highlighting the importance of being kind in today's world. And then I started to think, is my job to bias their perspective so that they can see more of what I want, what I would like them to see? And that's common for us when we do critical work to get in those moments. And so my work started to shift a little bit. And then that's when I finally was able to understand that my role is to be a listener, to be a mediator in a conversation of whoever is involved in that environment, in that classroom setting, that they see the world from their own experience, from their perspective, and we are responsible to respect that also. Um, there's there's this quote that I like. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. We read the world from our perspective, and we can read from our life experience, and that is what we see. We see who we are, and there's many things that can be done. When it comes to reflection and action again, um, there's a group of people um, in a growing community also doing in a way some critical media literacy work without calling it that way. So we invite people to join us, watch a movie together, and then start sharing perspectives and reflections around the movie, not necessarily focusing on power issues, but that could be part of the conversation if it's brought by people. So there's different ways to approach this in a way that is not that this is again my personal experience, that I don't feel like I'm indoctrinating people, but bringing opportunities for conversation, analysis, and expanding awareness, pretty much, and just bringing that compassion and love. What does it take for us to understand and respect every person's path? That's where they are at. So and I've seen it, and I've done it, and I've lived it. Sometimes when we do critical work, we see people who don't see that way in certain disrespectful ways. So that one who is not so critical then is not where they should be. And why this is why I'm bringing this. We are here to awake from the illusion of our separateness. And when we start looking at ourselves as one, even that who thinks differently, even that one who doesn't see what I see, but complements our perspective in different ways, that is part of how our conversation could become different, and we could start building some kind of more peaceful and respectful relationships. I think critical media literacy has the power to unite when they bring this value of respecting the multiple perspectives that may arise in the conversation. And that's it. Is there any questions, final reflections? I saw a question right there. This is my email. I'm sharing 2 emails. We have 9 minutes for more conversation. And let me stop sharing. Someone asked why I became interested in this. it's very interesting what you're mentioning. Why did you decide to start working on this approach of critical media literacy exposure? I, mm, I was part of a study group learning about critical literacy and systemic functional linguistics, and it was at Universidad de Antioquia, and that's when I first knew about all these critical approaches. And of course, it's a public university where critical perspectives are everywhere from a political point of view most of the times. So that was my background right there, and that's how I started to explore this being part of my responsibility as an educator to expand awareness about the power of language in any text that we read, but not just to criticize how power is being used, but to make informed decisions of how I interpret the messages and what I do with them. And that's a personal reflection again. If you want to share your reflections, opening your microphone, you may go ahead. Um,
Okay, Mister, can I share something? Something short. For the first, my name is Camilo Garcia. I am Cam. In this case, I'm sorry I didn't fulfill a complete name there, but maybe you can see me now. I don't know. Right? Hello.
I can see you now.
Hello, Mister. And hello, everybody. I'm sorry. I am from Universidad UCEBA here in Tuluá Valle, and as another partner just said, I think that critical reading and critical reading comprehensions are a key factor, as you said, in order to be an eye opener for the students, no, to become an eye opener for the students, and so they realize what they can find in a text. And well, obviously, how they take it is very personal, but I think that opening, that door is a gateway to get far in what we see in this society nowadays, no, and maybe more union, maybe more solidarity, maybe more understanding. So thanks for the tips. I think that they're very useful, and congratulations. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Cam, for sharing. I would like to read, I'm looking at the chat box, and I see that Natalia Larcon says that people are being educated by media. Um, this kind of works is a must. This kind of work is a must. Children need to be more critical when consuming massive messages they receive every day and everywhere, especially today. I mean, when with in the digital work that we live in, now education, I mean, because of this pandemic is online. We are being exposed to all kind of information all the time, and we don't know what's real, what's not, what's true, what's not, and we are just receiving a lot of information. And I agree with Natalia in what she said, that this is a must. Unfortunately, that's not what happens in our traditional educational contexts.
Well, Camilo.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess there is another person who wants to share something. Well, Camilo, thank you very much. I don't know if we have more participants who want to share something.
Thanks to you.
Okay, so it was really interesting. It was a great opportunity, as you mentioned at the beginning, not just to listen to you talking about the topic, but it was a space for discussion. We have a very active chat with many comments, with some questions, and even we have a link from Professor Carlo Granado. He shared a link for a website. He mentions here that there you can find some resources for teachers to use on this topic. And so I guess if we don't have any other question or any other comment, we can call it for a day today. And I'm going to share in the chat the link for the YouTube session that we had, for the YouTube video that we had. In case you missed something, or in case you want to share with somebody else who is interested on this topic, or if you want to rewatch the webinar, so you can have access there. So thank you very much for attending this session today. And remember that we will be having another webinar on June 24. Okay, so thank you once again for making some time to be here with us. And remember to visit also our website and to check our social media for Asocopy. So thank you, and we hope to see you soon. So Camilo, thank you very much again for all those insightful comments and the questions that you share with us and the videos and everything.
I want to thank Asocopy for this invitation. There are events coming up in this line of work. We are working, there's a group of teachers working on the first international dialogue on digital literacy in ELT. That is an invitation that will be shared soon. There is a critical media literacy of the Americas conference coming up in October. It's going to be free. It's online, and this is hosted by the University of California. So that's a great opportunity to also see what people in other parts of the world are doing. And this year there's a special connection with Paulo Freire's work, because we are expanding the community to Spanish-speaking community in Latin America too. So is of the Americas. So this is going to be the second version, and just look it up on the internet. Critical Media Literacy of the Americas Conference. That's an invitation. Thank you so very much, and I hope you have a great rest of the day and of the week.
Thanks to both of you, and thanks to us for coffee. Thanks.